Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new revenge stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, Took on a Shady Chicago Towing Company and Won. Alright. I'll try to keep this short, but it's got a lot of information and I'm so proud of what happened I might ramble. I hope it qualifies as revenge, but please be kind if you don't think so. I'm emotionally weak. In the spring I decided to use a massage gift card at a local chain and scheduled one for 10 a.m. on a Saturday. Of course I forgot about it until my alarm went off at 9:45 and I saw the calendar alert on my phone. Cue an enormous freak out because if you forfeit the cost of the massage, nearly $100 if you don't show. I woke up my husband and begged him to drive me because his car is parked right out back and mine is parked a block away. He begrudgingly got out of bed and we ran to the car. I arrived 20 minutes late and he agreed he would wait for me in the parking lot of the shopping center until I was done, since at this point my massage hour was nearly halfway over. My massage goes great, but when I come up to the desk to check out, the woman working there apologizes and says that while I was in the room my husband received a boot on his car when he left the parking lot to grab coffee. She says it happens all the time, even to workers of the shopping center, because the towing guy just sits in his truck on the property and waits to boot people. She said she ran out there and tried to stop it and argue with the guy that I was a paying customer, but the towing operator just laughed at her. They gave me half off the massage for the trouble. I run out and hope to argue our case. My husband is upset. The operator told him he would remove the boot if his boss said he could, so my husband called and tried to explain, but the minute he admitted to leaving the property the boss said, "I have you on tape admitting you left the parking lot. You're screwed. Nothing you can do. Pay to remove the boot." I tried to defuse the situation by explaining that I was a paying customer and thus we didn't technically break the rules of the parking lot. The towing guy says we have to pay, but that we can argue our case by calling the office afterwards. We pay. When we get home I call the office and explain, and the guy who answers just says, "I talked to your husband. He's in a hole. Maybe if he hadn't been such a dick I would do something about it. You can try and call back tomorrow and speak to a different manager, but I don't know that they'll help you either." Great. Now I'm fuming, my husband is upset, and it's my fault for making him drive me in the first place. I proceed to do a ton of research on towing laws and reporting fraud. I file a report with the BBB. I email the owner of the company. I file a report with the city of Chicago. I do everything I can think of and then I just forget about it. $140 is a chunk of change since my husband is in full-time graduate school and I'm working long hours to make ends meet, but we'll survive. 2 months later I get an email from the city saying that they reviewed my claim and they side with the towing company, but that I can call to dispute. I do. Tony, the guy handling my complaint, tells me that the towing company sent over a recording of me. The tape is listed with my name, case number, where I admit to leaving the shopping mall parking lot. I tell him, that's impossible. I literally never left the parking lot, so there's absolutely no way you could have a tape that has me admitting that. I tell him my whole story. Tony says he will discuss with his manager and get back to me. I get a call later in the day and it's Tony again. He says that he listened to the tape again and that something isn't right. The woman on the tape the towing company sent over admits to leaving the parking lot to go to the liquor store across the street and buy wine. So it's not me. He strongly infers that they're trying to screw me over, without actually saying it, and says that he told them to send the correct tape by the end of the day or refund me my money. Tony calls again the next day and says that he can't legally be the middleman, but that I should call the company and give them my information and they'll send me a check. I do. I'm sweet as sugar to the grumpy man on the line. 1 week later a check comes by certified mail. I leave a voicemail for Tony worshipping the ground he walks on for believing me and fighting for me. I know this might seem lame, but to anyone who has ever had to deal with a shady towing, booting company, it's the biggest win possible. I was walking on air for weeks. I thought it was a little more than petty revenge, but maybe not exactly regular revenge. The next one is titled, Break Into My House. go to prison for a year and get ordered to pay me back tens of thousands of dollars. This happened about a year ago. I came home from spending a weekend at my girlfriend's to find my condo had been broken into, trashed pretty thoroughly, and about $18,000 worth of camera equipment and electronics stolen. I made a report with the police, and they did absolutely nothing. I tried to get in touch with the detective to no avail. Another unit in my condo complex had also been burgled. They took their computer, but more importantly their car keys and car. My keys were also stolen, but I think since my car is a manual they elected to take the much more boring automatic car my neighbor had. After a day of trying to get the police to take the matter seriously, at around 10 p.m. that same night I get a ping. My laptop had been opened and connected to the internet. I look for the location and turns out it's at a hotel about 1/2 a mile from my house. So at this point I realize I'm not dealing with criminal masterminds. I ride down to the hotel to see if the desk person will tell me which room they're in, since I do have a pretty good idea for where the room is, all except for which floor they're on. They don't, of course, but as I'm leaving I see my neighbor's car just sitting on the street. We called AAA and the police, steal the car back, and tow it to a different location somewhere else in the neighborhood. Since the thieves still have the keys, they could easily just come steal it again. My neighbor has resigned to rekeying his car and dealing with that expensive headache, but it's still a win to have the car retrieved. While we were there I thought it would be a good idea to bring the police with me to the hotel desk person, but without a warrant or backup they are unwilling to even knock on the door. The next morning I get up nice and early, call the detective assigned to my case, and he answers. He had just gotten in and my file is on his desk. I tell him what I know and ask if it's a good or bad idea to go to the hotel and wait for them to leave so I can confront them and maybe get some of my stuff back. He says that's a terrible idea, so that's exactly what I do. This forces his hand somewhat and he ends up meeting me at the hotel with his partner. Just as I was introducing myself, 3 young males walk past the lobby, one of which is wearing my backpack. I say, "Hey." There goes my backpack. And the detectives detain the young men and find my laptop, my iPad, another laptop, still unknown, and a set of keys. Now, I don't know what probable cause really is, but 3 guys walking out of a hotel room with $3,000 worth of my stolen goods seems like it should be. But no, they knock on the door but don't enter. Sucks, but I have insurance and that ended up covering it. Now, for the revenge part. Only one guy was carrying anything stolen, so he faces a pretty massive receiving stolen property charge and pleads out to a year in jail. Not bad, right? Well, in my victim impact statement I talk about how I feel unsafe now, how the insurance company had to pay me out, and I request restitution for the full amount plus the new security system we have installed on our property. The suspect is staring daggers at me. Apparently in the interrogation he was incredibly angry and completely at a loss for how he got caught. I'm happy enough to fill in the courtroom with those details, and I give an interview to a local paper so whenever anyone Googles his fairly distinctive name all this comes up. I have a protection order against him and he's scheduled to be released soon, but with my new security system I don't think I'll be having any problems in the future, and maybe he learned a valuable lesson. Probably not, but the felony on his record should be a nice reminder. Don't break the law, a-hole. Next one is titled, "Guy drives like in a hole and nearly rear-ends me." I report him to his work. So, yesterday, I was pulling out from a hospital. My son's GP is there because we went to follow up on a car accident last week. We were at a stop sign and someone hit us going 40 to 50 from behind. With this in mind, I pulled out. I waited for the proverbial hand-written invitation in calligraphy. However, as soon as I pulled out, the guy punched the gas so I couldn't cut the narrow time to go left maybe 100 yards from where I turned right. So, guy was in a hole. No big deal. However, he tried to run me off the road and I ended up in front of him. I cut across the just red light to get away from this guy. Nope. He follows me and blocks the intersection to be an inch from my bumper. Mind you, this is a rental car at this point, our actual car isn't drivable. I look back in the mirror. Not only is he following me way too close, he's flipping me off and very unsettled. Finally, the light in front went green. He pulled around me and sped off. Not before I see the HVAC company he works for across his company tagged van, and get a picture of his tag from my wife. I called their dispatcher and she was very apologetic. I told her, I just think someone like that doesn't deserve to be on the road, much less in a work vehicle. I told her we were recently rear-ended and what this guy did. She looked up the tag and called his boss to relay the frustration. About 10 minutes later, I got a call from the boss. At first, he seemed skeptical of the situation. He wanted my side of the story, and my side he got. I told him about my wreck, why we were at the hospital, and that our car was a rental, and then, I gave him the description of what they did. Quickly, not only did his tone change. He too was apologetic. I just said, not a problem. I just wanted you to know what type of person you have out on the road representing your company. I assume they don't reflect the company's values and thought you should be well aware. The boss stated he wouldn't be representing the company anymore, and this was not someone he wanted to extend employment to. Now, I don't know how he followed up on it, but I'm 99% sure I just ruined that dude's life for the time being. Honestly, if he just didn't act a fool and try to road rage my already shocked family, I would have let it go. Next one is titled, Set Up a Sting After Craigslist iPhone Deal Goes Bad. A few years ago I decided it was time to upgrade from my iPhone 5. I didn't like having a contract or payments, so I'd been buying my phones outright for a few years, so I started looking on Craigslist for an iPhone 6 Plus. The 6s had just come out, so normal 6s dropped in price and I found one for around $550. The guy the first found was actually selling two phones, an iPhone 6 Plus with more memory and an iPhone 6s, but it was more expensive and a smaller phone, so I passed on it. I finally met the guy at a Verizon store and the clerk checked it out and made sure it wasn't bricked or stolen, and we made the exchange, so all was great. The following day, however, the phone shut off and wouldn't come back on. So naturally I get a hold of the guy via another phone and let him know the issue and I'm gonna bring it to get looked at. He seemed pretty chill, and to let him know what's up if it's a screen issue or whatnot. After paying for diagnostics, it comes back as having water damage, which mean A, I can pay for them to scrub and try to clean the board, no guarantee, or B, replace the board, which is crazy expensive. At this point the guy ghosts completely. After a few hours of hearing nothing back, I grab a fake local number off of Pinger and hit the guy up about his other phone, willing to pay full price. He texts me back instantly and we arrange a meet at that same Verizon store where I assume he does all his business. I have a friend come with to meet up with the guy, and once my buddy has the new phone in hand, I walk up from behind and he hands me the phone. Instantly the guy starts freaking out, saying that he needs his phone back, which obviously I'm willing to trade him both phones for my money. He tries to backpedal and say he doesn't have it and will go get it, but he needs to hold the phone. I don't budge and start leaving, and he somehow finds the spare $550 in his car. At this point I told him not to be a dickhead and went inside to let the store know that he's scamming people on this property. I then decided to pay the extra money and buy a new phone inside. The next one is titled, Get the Racist Out of the Pool. Background, I'm super pale. My husband has a light olive complexion. My adopted daughters have this beautiful, dark olive skin that I'm super envious of. Many people mistake them as being biracial and assuming they have sub-Saharan African ancestry. This usually doesn't bother our family when it's an innocent assumption. When they were 4, we're on vacation in the United States deep south in a condominium complex on the Gulf Coast. My parents, sisters and their families were in the same complex. There were a few pools in the complex and we decided to go to one for a while. There was an older woman, maybe in her 50s, sitting on the side of the pool with her legs in the water. She had a friend with her. When we walked up, she said to her friend, "Well, she's too white to be their mama." I chose to act like I didn't hear her. My girls were oblivious. My husband didn't hear her, but I did whisper to him what was said. The woman ended up getting into the pool. We got in the water and the comments kept coming. They obviously have black in them. I'm not sure if she had an affair with a black man because she's so pale. I didn't understand that one. I think they are definitely half black. Maybe he had a relationship with a black woman. Meanwhile, I could tell that, based on her assumption about their race, she was very uncomfortable with them getting too close. She acted like they were contagious. My husband and I could hear what she was saying, but acted like we didn't hear her. We acted oblivious and kind of led the girls around the pool, play and splashing and getting close to her every so often. She'd move as soon as we got too close and we continued to act like we didn't notice. We excitedly squealed with our girls and splashed around having the time of our lives. We were careful to avoid getting anyone else wet from our splashes, etc. After about the 5th time of us getting too close, the woman and her friend got out of the pool, grabbed their things and moved to the other pool. My girls never caught on and my husband and I felt a bit victorious. Less than 5 minutes later, we saw my sister and her kids, ages 9 to 14, go to the other pool. So we got excited at the opportunity, got out, grabbed our belongings and walked to the other pool. Then we loudly said to our girls, "Look, there are your cousins," and my sister's pale, blonde hair, blue-eyed kids came rushing over to us anxious to play in the pool. The woman got this annoyed look on her face, grabbed her belongings and left the area. We never saw her again for the rest of our trip. The next one is titled, "A Rude Shoe Store Clerk Gets What She Deserves." I was in Los Angeles roaming around the streets shopping when I walked past this shoe store. It was more of a stripper shoe joint, with all kinds of heels and boots, and I thought I might check it out. I walked inside and there was nobody in there, totally empty. I found these red boots that I thought were cute, so I asked the store clerk if I could try them on. The clerk was a middle-aged Eastern European woman with a stern look on her face. She was watching a show on her computer and got really upset that I even asked her to try shoes on. Finally she said okay and went in the back and got me 2 sizes to try on. I tried them on and loved them. Meanwhile she was huffing and puffing behind me, being super impatient. I told her I was going to take a walk, think about it and probably come back and buy them. I didn't have US currency, so I was going to run and get cash. It was cash only. She was livid. Barked at me asking why I was wasting her time, grabbed the boots aggressively and screamed, "What do you need to think about?" I got so mad and stormed out of the store. She did not only lose a customer, she also was in for some petty revenge. I was traveling with a group of friends and I told them what happened and we made a plan. They all went inside, again, the store had no customers, and spent the next hour trying on all the shoes. The guys were trying to squeeze into women's stripper heels and my girlfriends always gave the clerk the wrong shoe size to try on. The clerk was fuming. After an hour my friend stopped trying everything on and told her, "We'll think about it," and stormed out of the store. The last on is titled, "Alcoholic Boss Decided to Ignore Employment Wage Laws and Treat Us Like Absolute Garbage for Months on End. So, I reported him and shut down his business." This was back when I was in college, in Canada, working part-time as a dishwasher at a restaurant. A little bit about the restaurant owner: he was an alcoholic. He would crack open a beer first thing after he opened the restaurant for the day, then he would drink continuously throughout the day, all day, every day. And when he did, he yelled and swore at his employees. He would keep drinking in the evenings and sometimes he would pass out. Because I was responsible for cleaning, oftentimes I was the last one to leave at the end of the day. One night, he drank so much he passed out on the seats at the back of the restaurant, then he yelled at me the next day for not waking him up. I later learned that he slept through the night with all of the lights still on inside the restaurant and the front door unlocked. But I digress. The biggest kicker was how the owner thought he could mess with our wages, shortchange us in the most blatant ways possible, and get away with it. He kept a notebook where we would record our hours worked. Unfortunately, when it came to calculating our wages, he calculated the minutes as decimals, that is, 15 minutes equals 0.15 hours, 30 minutes equals 0.30 hours, and 45 minutes equals 0.45 hours, and he did that with every day we worked. He was very much aligned with what he believed was the Chinese working culture: 996 work schedule for full-time employees, straight-up sub-minimum wages, no overtime, no holiday pay, etc., and any suggestion to the contrary was met with direct verbal abuse. There were no breaks, we worked continuously. The one time I did get a short break, I had worked for 15 hours non-stop and he thought I was about to burn out right where I was standing. Back then I was still a college kid, so I didn't know my legal rights that well, and he made it clear that it was not up for discussion, but I had a strong feeling that something wasn't quite right. It bothered me terribly and I had to do something eventually. The only reason I worked this job was to earn some money on the side. I was handing resumes one day and he hired me immediately. He got my resume in the afternoon and told me to start working that evening. I didn't like to be yelled at, but I thought it was just a normal part of the job, so I basically toughed it out while he bombarded me several times a day. Soon enough, I kinda got used to it. But deep down, I was angry. I wanted out, but I didn't know how. At the same time, I needed to do something. Then the opportunity presented itself. The straw that broke the camel's back was how he wanted me to work on Canada Day. My shift was scheduled from 11 a.m. to about 3 a.m. the next day, with no bonus, no holiday pay, no nothing, at sub-minimum wage, that's it. No breaks either, remember? Of course I bailed on him when that day arrived. He asked 20 times over the last 2 months and I told him no every time. When he approached me, he wasn't asking, he was straight up telling me that I must work on that day, under those conditions. Duck that crap. He fired me the very next day. I couldn't be more delighted. I went right over to the labor board and reported the duck out of him. I told them everything. I also told them where to find that notebook with all the evidence in it. The officer at the labor board gave me a very serious look and told me he would investigate this thoroughly. The owner was illegally hiring study abroad kids from China to do the dirty work for him and treating them like absolute crap. One of the waiters told me she was paid as little as $6 an hour. The officer at the labor board ordered the owner to pay me more than $1,000 in compensation. Some days later, I brought a buddy with me and returned to the restaurant to collect the rest of what I owed. I got quite a few missed calls from the owner after that, then I blocked his number. The cherry on top? I think they must have been audited or something, because soon after my complaint, I walked by it one day and it was completely boarded up. I went on Google to check and they listed the location as permanently closed. Thanks for listening.